That's how I got treated through all this. Is just like, I'm the other woman, even though I'm not the other woman. I just happen to be a woman. Well, I would tell him absolutely no.
Barry denied the accusation as well.
Everybody's out there saying, oh, he's got a girlfriend and he's having an affair. Where is it? There's nobody. There's never been another love in my life since 1988.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear. My mind fills up into a creature.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. We're now going to page 46 of the 129-page affidavit, and we're going to deal with Morgan Gentile's interview. She gave it on May 14, basically one day after Barry's 5-hour interrogation. On May 14, 2020, Colorado Bureau of Investigation agent Kevin Kobach, where have we heard that name before, and Joseph Cale conducted a consensual recorded interview with Morgan Ann Gentile in Salida, Colorado. Morgan stated that around July 2019, she returned to Salida and started work at Dislin Structures Incorporated, DSI. She first met Barry through DSI, and they have worked together frequently. In January 2020, Morgan was terminated from DSI over allegations she used illegal drugs, though she asserted she did not use drugs. After she was terminated, Barry hired her as a contractor for his company, Sunset Farms Landscaping. Now, if any of that is true, what sort of benefit do you think there is in an employee hiring someone that went through that sort of situation? Well, don't you think there's a sort of a cost benefit? The labor is sort of cheaper, right? And obviously when something happened in this case and Morgan Gentile gave her version of events, Barry's response was really dismissive, calling Morgan Gentile a meth head. And we have heard that some former people who knew Barry said that he seemed to be in the habit of hiring illegals. If that's true, what do you think that says potentially about Barry? Now, according to Morgan, Barry frequently talks to Morgan about his two daughters, but he has never spoken of any marital or other problems. Barry told Morgan about the Broomfield job sometime in mid-April 2020. Morgan stated that the job was supposed to take place between April 23rd and April 30. However, she was not sure of the exact date. Barry then changed the job to take place on or about the first week of May. Barry then rescheduled the job to begin on May 11, 2020. So if you think about that, all of those date changes, April 23, April 30, first week of May, May 11, you're already just getting a sense from in this one single job that there's a little bit of, disorganization, a little bit of uncertainty in terms of getting one particular job done. Morgan stated on May 8th, 2020, Barry picked her up from Anytime Fitness, that's at 9985 Highway 50, Poncha Springs, Colorado. They traveled to a job site at 6962 County Road 105, Salida. Now that was a Friday. May 8th was a Friday. So just look at what we're dealing with. You know, Barry has a young woman working for him, and he doesn't pick her up at a sort of a neutral location. He picks her up from Anytime Fitness, and it does make you wonder where he was gymming at the time and also where he met her. Anyway, they arrived at around 8 a.m., completed a Rock Beach project and left. At around 11 a.m., Barry took her back to a vehicle by Anytime Fitness, paid her in cash for the job and left. Now again, I think you've got to wonder why cash payments. And I would suggest it might have something to do with not declaring tax. Potentially it might be that person working for him is working kind of informally, where there's not like a proper contract, I guess. You know, it's possible that that is what's going on, that it's almost like an informal employee. And then at the end of their time together, Morgan stated that Barry mentioned he was going to go hiking or biking. Now, just even in that comment, one's got to wonder, what is the nature of Barry's relationship with Morgan and Morgan's relationship with him? Is the one covering for the other? Does the one know something about the other? Anyway, Barry was supposed to pick Morgan up at around 5:30 p.m. on Sunday, May 10, to drive to a hotel in Broomfield, Colorado, right? So he was actually supposed to pick her up again, right, on the Sunday. That was the original plan, that he was going to pick her up Sunday afternoon. Cassie Cordova was supposed to drive up separately and meet them on Monday, May 11, 2020. Now, if you think about that, why must Morgan be at the hotel on a Sunday night, right, for this particular job, and then another colleague is there the next day? What's the point of that? Anyway, Morgan said that at around 4 o'clock in the morning on May 10, she was confident she heard Barry's Ford F-350 drive eastbound past her house on Highway 50. I've got to say, that to me sounds a bit far-fetched. You know, if you live next to a highway and now you can actually make out the sound of one vehicle compared to another. And I actually don't think Barry was on the road at 4 a.m., although who knows. Anyway, Morgan said she did not see the truck, but that his truck has a very distinctive exhaust. That seems to me her trying to make the case that she knew where he was. You know, he was driving past her house, and that actually is where he was. And bear in mind, there's a little bit of uncertainty about exactly where Barry was and which route he took when he left Puma Path that morning. Anyway, at about 11:18 a.m. on May 10, 2020, Barry called Morgan and explained she needed to bring an additional person because of the amount of work needed to repair the wall. So if you think about it, until mid-morning, it was actually a situation that it was only going to be Barry and Morgan spending the night together at that hotel, right? In the context of Suzanne actually disappearing that day, and then someone else would join them the next day. Do you see there's something that's quite interesting there? Anyway, she agreed that she would bring another contractor, Jeff Puckett. Barry never provided an explanation why he left early or why he did not pick her up. So that's also quite interesting. You kind of get the sense that, did Barry have a change of plan? Did something happen that Barry didn't expect? Was Barry preoccupied with something? But that in itself is really interesting, that Barry made certain arrangements and then simply didn't pick her up. He was supposed to pick her up on Sunday afternoon. Meanwhile, he was already on his way very early in the morning. Morgan stated she later picked up Jeff and drove towards Broomfield. At about 6:09 p.m., Barry called and said he had a family emergency and had to return to Salida. Barry had left tools at the hotel and said he would call her the next day. On May 11, 2020, at about 7 o'clock in the morning, Barry called Morgan and said that Suzanne was missing and he thought a mountain lion may have attacked her. So even the next day, right, it's one thing for him to say on the scene, you know, could it have been a mountain lion? He's still attached to this idea with no evidence, no tracks, no blood, nothing. But he's still very attached to this idea the next day. Morgan explained that Barry was initially crying, but then abruptly shifted to the specifics about the Broomfield job. So even she is bringing up his strange affect in terms of, you know, 1 minute he's emotional and the next he's not. Morgan adamantly denied that there was ever any type of sexual relationship between her and Barry. Well, what do you think about that? Now let's go on to the Jeffrey Puckett interview. It occurred on the same day, and it is actually astonishing for its brevity. It's on the bottom of page 47. On May 14, 2020, investigator Richard Wren interviewed Jeff Puckett. Puckett has since passed away. Puckett was one of the workers who was supposed to meet Barry Morphew in Broomfield on May 10, 2020 to complete a landscape job. Puckett stated that he was contacted by Morgan on Sunday, May 10th, to see if he wanted to go to Denver to work on a job for Barry. After being asked by Morgan, Puckett contacted Barry directly. Puckett had no knowledge of the job until he was contacted by Morgan. On Monday, Puckett and Morgan met up with Cassidy Cordova, who was helping them with the job. Now, what's quite interesting is how little Jeff Puckett actually says in that interview. It's barely 6 lines long. And then the very next day, after that interview on May 14, the cops interview Morgan again, May 15th. And we'll deal with that in the next analysis. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.